In this video help, what we're going to do is we're going to be going to an appointment. There's two ways you can access appointments. You can either click the plus here, which creates a new appointment, or you can access a current appointment by clicking either the green arrow at the end of the row or go to the individual title, and clicking on the title will take you into that particular event. So let's go ahead and click on the title. What the title is going to do is it's going to bring up a window that has the title information as far as the application for this particular event. Now the event title was shown on there, and it was Property Eval 213 Starlight Way, which is a property where we're doing a evaluation of a property. Now I'm going to point out on this screen something that's very important. The information that is in these different buttons and in this area and in this area here is all from what is called the back end of the application. The back end of the application is where all the base information that really feeds the calendar and the application as far as all the transaction events, tasks, and everything that are being done, including customer information and seller information, and everything about the purchase and or transactions of the property are included. Well, all these buttons that you see here plus this information come from the back end. And the way that this particular screen works is that when you create an appointment, all this information is blank, everything is blank, but just basically the buttons in this field are sitting here. What you need to do first is to pick the client that is involved in this particular task. It may be that you created a task for either maybe a builder or a seller or a buyer or an agent or any other kind of an entity where you're actually putting them in as a customer who is either listing or selling a property. That's the crucial part of this. This whole app is about, or this portion of it is about the listing and selling. The renovation is the intermediate part of the task where all that work is done as a process after the buy and before the sell. Okay, so let's take a look at what this section is above here. We've got the title that we type in on this screen when we create an appointment, or we may want to come back here, like right now I'm in the edit appointment screen. There's a new appointment, edit appointment, and a view appointment screen. The new is when you first create the event on a calendar and click on the new button on the calendar on the main screen I showed you before we came here. That would create a blank record. If you click on the green button in the row or the title, it'll bring you into the current record, which would be the edit. So let's go ahead and say that we created this and we're going to edit it, or if we came in and this is all blank, we'd be adding the information. And I like to call this a regime. You get down to where you have a standard way of putting information in. And before the colon, it's either a good idea to put the person that's involved with the actual task, like Mr. Jones is going to receive an offer. So it'd be Mr. Jones, Mr. Don Jones, or whatever, colon, send offer. And you might want to add some other narrative here if you have to. The whole idea is that as this is appearing on the calendar, you want the standard information so that it tells you basically by looking at it what this is and who's involved. So in this case, it could be an offer, or it can be like this is, evaluate a property and the property name. Now down to the next level of this, you'll see that there are different things here, like we are doing this sell a property, reno is starting, or we purchased a property, we're doing a property eval, we're going to make an offer, we have a meeting either with some part of the team, either the buyer, the seller, the agent, the broker, a title company, or escrow company, where a meeting is involved. Construction, these are all about things that have to do with the actual construction during the renovation, and they may affect the design and or production on the renovation. Auction is where if you go to an auction to buy property, that's a separate entity where you go to auctions, and that can be an auction item. And activity is anything like a telephone call, sending out paperwork, or making a contact that's related to a client sell or buy, and that would be related as an activity. An action item is something that either you assign to somebody or somebody assigns something to you as far as a specific item that needs to be created and conducted and completed over a short period of time. So these are usually high priority things that need to be done that are related to something that has to happen before a specific date or time. Now, in this particular record, I left these blank, but I want to show you what's going to happen when we return. I'm going to actually put a time in here. I'm going to put in 9 a.m. And what I would do is I'd put a stop time. Since this is the same day, let's put 12 in there as 12 p.m. And we're going to have the end time in there. So now we've got 2 times in there. When I go back to this record, they're going to show. I can also set the priority from routine to priority. So those are the 3, and these actually show up on the calendar. So I could just say that this is a routine or a low priority or a high priority. So this is not a priority 1 as far as we're concerned with this starting somewhere. But if I do put it on the calendar and then I mark it for the person to get it done, it could be a separate priority just for them. Now down in this area, I'm the administrator, so as I created this record, it automatically put a check mark in here. But if I had to add something to different calendars or people, I would put a check mark in theirs so that I wanted them to see whatever this event is and what's going on with that. So obviously a property eval would be on the property eval calendar because that's what this is. If I had an action item, for example, and I was assigning it to James Morris, then I might want to put James or Lucy Jones in there. And yet I could put it also into, if it's construction related, or it's about selling the property, or about the renovation, or the property offer, I could put it in also a check in any one of those. It doesn't hurt to have multiple places for these things to show when it's important for people to see them. The next thing is when you actually go over here and you can actually complete this record in here while you're actually looking at it, you might be able to complete it if you had to. The assigned by is the person that actually created this record. In this case, I'm the admin. It could have been James Morris, Lucy, or somebody else. If I had to delete the record, I would only delete it if this record is not valid when I first start it. I realize I don't want to do it. I could delete it at that same time. Obviously, this is the video you're viewing right now by clicking here, or you can go to support by clicking on this particular button. And again, you can get help from here on this. Notice that the actual item is viewed at the very top of the screen as well as down here. This is what is called a modal window. A modal window requires you to fill in all the information that you're putting in here, and it will only allow you the stuff to be saved as you close the record. So if you close it, you should have all your stuff in here before you close it so that it updates properly. Let's talk about the buttons that are over on the side. In order to actually work on any of these button screens, they're going to pop out different screens, you have to have selected a client. In this case, I'm going to change it to myself, and you'll notice that as soon as I do that, it changed all the data here and it added data here. And also, if you change it again, it'll automatically change all of these, and whatever they're going to display will be related to this person with this ID, who his home address is this address, and this is the property that they're either buying or selling. In this case, the asking price indicates that we're selling a property, and the MRLS number and the city and the state where it's being sold. This particular portal that's down here, I will go over in more detail in the back end of the application for this particular screen. But basically, it's here so that you can see a transaction that is related to appraising what is in the home when you go to do an inspection. And this could be the eval inspection, or it can be something where you're getting ready to make an offer and you want to go in and account for costs so that when you do your offer that you have the proper cost for items that either the seller's retaining or you're going to have to buy that are related to the actual home as you're going into it. This would be an example where the oven is the gas oven in the kitchen. The owner wants to take it with him, and we put a pending status because we haven't made an offer, but we were told by the realtor that they're going to take this item. The cost to replace estimate is $950, and in this case, I'm putting it in there as a cost to the buyer because the buyer is going to have to come up with that money, and the seller is gaining that cost. If you put it in there as a seller now, where the seller is actually doing this, then it's a situation where the seller needs to either provide that overhead cost to replace something that is missing, and you're demanding they do that before you actually make your offer or as a part of the offer. These I'm going to go through just briefly, just each one of these, and then you'll see these again on the the actual back end of the application. There is, by the way, a status that is universal throughout this particular client. Whatever's happening with the client at the given time, the items that are, and it goes down off the screen where you can't even see it, but these are all kinds of things that are going on that are related to this particular client. At what point in the evolution of a buy, sell type of a situation with a reno in the middle are we at? There's also a pop-up here that allows you to put notes in about where you're at or what this particular item line information is about and what is pending and what has to be done in order to settle this item. Now I'm going to go through again, like I said, when I click this button, and what happens is basically what happens, this is the listed property map and the address for the property that's actually being viewed that this seller is selling. And in this particular case, this record is unique to this particular transaction that is going on for this property. If this seller, buyer, builder, agent, whatever, or broker comes back again, you would re-enter a new set of information based on the property ID. That you could have the same buyer, seller, agent come in maybe, and they're selling a property where you'd re-enter all this information because it's typically only about this particular property that we're working on. So you can see where it relates to one property with one record, and all this information is related to that one transaction. So let's go back. We have the buyer's property identified and where it's at. You can give directions to it. You can search nearby. You can actually go view the property. For example, you can click up here and say Street View and then go see the property right on the application. Now understand that this does require an internet connection, either 3G, 4G, or Wi-Fi. In order to hide this window, click anywhere off of the screen, off that. The inspection, this is where you actually go in with the realtor and you're going to think about buying a piece of property and you're doing an inspection, and or you can include additional inspections that you do during the history of this transaction where you're going back in and doing other inspections, or you're calling in somebody to do inspections and tracking on all the notes that are related to that. For example, you could have somebody come in and do something with the kitchen as a standalone item, or say there's something in the garage where you say like there's a bad water heater or whatever and you found it. You're tracking each individual item that was done on the inspection as an individual record, the narrative about what you're looking at, the corrective action that's required, and then the inspection item and the inspection findings. So you can have as many different findings as you want. You might have a problem with the roof or the patio, or there may be leaks or mold or some electrical issues or whatever. So you create a new one of these for each one of those because these affect both the offer you're going to be making. So if you do an inspection before you do the offer, you want to have a record so that if you go in and you're negotiating with this particular piece of property, that you know everything that's related to this particular property as far as the faults and things that you might bring up that are discounts against the offer. The next thing is photos. These are either photos of the progression of actually doing the offer, looking at issues, and putting the issued items in here as far as photos of, say, like mold damage or electrical or whatever. You can have as many of those as you want that are related to the transactions we just did on the prior screen. In addition to that, these could be progress photos that are done that are showing the property before you actually make the offer, so that you can see if they're missing, damaged, or whatever, things like that, or enter things that you want to bring to your attention. And you can also do that when you're in the reno. You can take additional photos of the final, like this looks like a final in the room is done, and now you're ready to show the difference between the initial one and the completed task. The next one is the offer track. Now keep in mind, these are all in the back of the application. Everything you're seeing on these screens are included in the back of the application. You can edit the screens from here. They'll change the background color when you're in edit mode. You can change anything you need to change or add text in any area, and that's going to update this. This particular screen is about the offer track, where you're actually doing the numerics of the offer, and we'll cover that in greater detail in the back end of the application. Correspondence. This has to do with anything that's paper that you're either signing or sending either to the buyer, the seller, the agent, the broker, or anybody, title company or whatever. You would want to have those documents tracked as far as what is going on with that particular item. You'll have the date that it's sent and the other information about it, the time you sent it, and the supposed results of what you're trying to get from this, and the next action that you're going to do. This again has multiple records, so you can cover all the transactions you're doing with any paperwork. Document tracking. Document tracking may have to do with property, titles. This may be city, county, or whatever, where you have to file different documents with the city and county for permits and construction things that have to do with the construction, where you have to post it on your property. This is really, really important that you have this information documented so that you don't have a mishap. If you go into a property and you have a question whether, say, for example, a room has properly been licensed to have it, the property modified, this is where you put that information and check with the county or city to make sure that that is done properly. Subcontractor select is very important. This is where you're actually either you're the subcontractor, or you're selecting subcontractors where you're going out. It may be one or more contractors. Maybe you have a pool contractor. Maybe you have a landscape contractor. Maybe you have a contractor for the actual renovation. These are different people that you want to manage and make sure you track all the things that they're doing. And down at the bottom of this, we'll cover it later, but basically this is to track the materials costs for all the items based on the task that this particular contractor is doing. And you want those reported back to you that you've received the receipts. The next one is the sub schedule. This is where you're actually, either the subcontractor himself is working in conjunction with you and has a copy of the application online, where we have a cloud app, and he's going in and putting his detailed stuff that he's doing, and for example, the task detail that he's supposed to be doing, and he's inspected it, and what the next scheduled event is that he's going to move to after this one, and of course the title for the task, and whether it's completed or not, and the cost, the estimated budget cost, the actual cost, and the difference, which is calculated by this field. So this is also a multi-line where you can add as many of these in there as you need to. The last one is interesting. This one actually allows you to put in both floor plans, scale drawings, artwork, paper, and you can have drawings in there, or you can actually take, say for example, the client has a tub that they want put in, and this is an example that they either took, or this is at maybe a showroom where they want something just like this, or maybe they want a vanity of a certain type. These are all things where you're tracking graphics and or plans that are laid out and are designed. And this is kind of nice because you can actually edit these outside of here and add stuff to them. This is nothing but something that was inserted by a picture. And you can also do videos. So you can actually take a video and put a video in here and walk around and narrate to a video if you needed stuff done. So you can have videos in here. Inserting files requires a little bit more than most people probably want to do. Inserting a file has to be on the hard drive or on the iPad where it's actually resident, and you can insert it. But if it's not on your hard drive or iPad, that particular thing will show as missing if somebody else has it. But you can export it. So you can export the field contents either to an email or whatever. And if you're on the actual iPad, you can take an image of this screen and send the image of the screen if you needed to somebody if you had to. The nice thing about having this on the cloud is the contractor and subs can actually access their own computer, and you can give them a username and password so they can get on the computer and get into these particular things if you want them to. Let's go ahead and complete this particular section, and then we're going to go to the back end of the application. So that'll be the next place you're going to want to go. You're going to have to close this here before you can leave this screen. You go back here and you'll notice that anything that you may have changed, like here, I'm showing this because I wanted to show at least that it updated, where the 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. are now part of this. Recall now, though, if this is a date span, the times will not show because date spans don't include date spans that would match a span of dates. If you have any questions, please get on the support site and go to the FAQ and ask your questions through the question area to the right-hand side of the FAQs. Thank you.